The idea came about when Darren and I sat down and we decided we wanted to look at the progress of a child initially who moved into foster care, how they cope with foster care and how they cope with moving schools and all the traumas associated with that. And it sort of basically generated from there. We started talking about the film probably a year and a half ago, and we basically sat down and floated lots and lots of ideas. Actually, no, I'm going to change that, because we actually started working on writing this film probably 2.5 years ago, writing and exchanging ideas through emails and putting the script together through literally emails. Darren and I were both leading quite busy lives at the time. It was the only way we could actually get together. Then when we started getting more serious about the script, it was time to sit down together in a room and put our heads together.
When you're writing a script, you've got certain ideas in your head, and what works on paper doesn't necessarily work on film. You try and visualise a location, and it may not necessarily be easy to find that location. So when you've written something, it becomes very difficult to actually film that scene. One of the scenes that got deleted from Lost was the sick scene, and we really put Ellen through her paces, and I know she didn't enjoy doing it, but unfortunately we made her do it twice because of lighting and continuity issues. And then when it came to actually editing the thing together, it really broke up the flow of the film, and as much as I didn't want to cut it from the film, I had to make that decision, and it did finally get cut, so she's going to kill me.
We have cast the lead, okay, and this is Ellen, who's the lead character.
No, not really.
Come on, Kez, surely there's one of them.
What about me? Do you fancy me, Keza?
My name isn't Kez or Keza, it's Ellen. My mum used to call me Ellen.
Channel 7 has always tried to be a youth-based organisation where you give children the opportunity to be involved with films. Now, trying to write films solely with children is very difficult, because obviously every child has parents, and to get any kind of interaction you need adults. So we need a combination of the two. We prefer to work with the children because they tend to have the time to rehearse, the time to learn their lines, whereas the adults have other lives. They have their own children to look after, and they tend to not be able to give as much to the process as say, a child.
Hi, Perrin.
All right, Charlie? Abby?
You made it then? Your parents give you a hard time?
No, I'm only with foster parents. Anyway, none of their business what I do.
Oh yeah, forgot. Give us a pull, Dan.
Get your own bloody fags. You always pouncing mine. Stupid twat.
I'll sort us when you're tight, Git. Might let you have a mouthful of this.
In the audition process, the first thing you need to do is wheedle out those that can't act, because you normally do get quite a lot of kids who are very keen, very motivated, but sadly haven't got that ability to either act or work in front of a camera. I've seen some great kids on stage who just don't work in front of a camera because they're too large in life and they can't slim it down. So once you've got to that stage, you then start looking for the fine bits of the characters that you're after, and I suspect in sort of professional films you expect actors and actresses to mould themselves to a character. I think at our level we actually look for people with those characteristics to make it easier for us and for them.
Don't forget your lunchbox. I don't know what we're going to do with you, Dunderhead. You going to give us a kiss then? You're so sad.
good day.
I will.
When you come to audition, your perceptions change, the idea changes because their mannerisms mean the personalities come over slightly different to the way you'd written it, which is always a bit of a disappointment when you've written something and you've got something in your head. Come on, you monster. We've got spellings to learn for school tomorrow.
Oh, Dad, I want to stay with Kerry and Karen.
Come on, Amy. You heard your dad. Off you go. I'll listen to you read when your dad's done that.
I want Kerry to hear me read.
I will tomorrow, Amy. I promise. I was going to ask your mum if I could go out and see some friends tonight.
Well, the police are still investigating everything, as they told you, Kerry. I'm not sure how helpful it is to ask questions that we can't answer.
Alright, I'll do that tomorrow.
So I'm drunk.
Yeah.
Happy.
I think you have a basic storyline plotted out. This happens, this happens, this happens. Then you develop your main character. And actually, Darren and I spent almost half the scripting time going through the Kerry character, looking at her history, looking at her relationships. We found this works with other films we've worked on, that if we know the character, the lead character inside out, we can then write the right reactions as that character would have done. So we know how Ellen Kerry was as a little girl, how she grew up, the sort of school she went to, the sort of friends she hung out with. That helped us to make sure that she reacted the correct way with her, the people she met.
The main message in the film, well, there's a few. There's probably basic ones like don't smoke and things, but it teaches you how not to react to certain things and the consequences if you do react the wrong way. I do an awful lot of crying in the film. Some days it was hard and some days it wasn't.
Stones in slime. Like eating stuff out of a puddle.
The filming all went fine, apart from the sex scene, which was absolutely horrible, but we also had to do that 3 times, I think, which was really annoying, but at least we managed to get it right in the end, and I don't think it's been cut out, so it was all worth it.
Our guest presenter today, Mr. Lalonde, ably assisted by Miss Who?
The bit of the filming that I went away with feeling most satisfied was when we filmed out in the school by some lockers. It involved over 60 extras, and there were bits which had been put into the film, which just added more realism, made it feel like we were in a really busy school. This scene, obviously, is a French lesson. Basically, it's early on in Kerry's school, so she's only been in school for that first, second day, so she's being a bit of a bottom. As we go through the different scenes, you'll see her behaving very differently.
My ultimate goal in Channel 7 is to win a major award at a competition. I've got no desire as such to go into the filmmaking business, but I want to have a sense of achievement, and there's always that goal to win an international competition. And that's what I'm aiming for. The actual vehicle for getting there is kind of irrelevant. I like to do something different every year, and if that brings a new challenge, all well and good. But if it's going over old ground and we're just improving and refining the process, I'm happy with that as well.
When we're actually filming a shot, the first thing we will do is we'll get the actors to walk through it. This gives us a chance to have a look at the lighting, the sound, and make sure that they're going to think of things like the microphone keeps out of shot.
That didn't work.
No, never mind. Okay, things like the microphone is going to be out of shot, that there are no shadows on the wall, no reflections in people's eyes of things going off. I mean, I have great fun looking at films and seeing errors like that, and I'm sure a lot of people do, so we try and minimise that. So when we're filming a shot, the sort of basic hierarchy or the way things work are, we walk through it. While I would be walking through with the actors, then Darren would be coordinating the shot and having a look at the lighting and the sound, where the sound's going to go. I suppose ultimately the way we work is that Darren is the ultimate person who says, this is where we go, we're ready to go now, or are we ready to go? Darren ultimately is the big chief, and everybody else sort of works as a team around that. I think that would be sort of fair.
Young girls giving me water from a vine leaf.
That's Russell.
Just dropping onto my tongue.
I think every single person's role, because they're so crucial and they work so much together, is as important as everybody else. Having sort of had that, what I felt a quite disturbing experience of having to actually do a minor role at the beginning of the film, I couldn't do that. I don't enjoy that, and I admire the actors who can time after time after time deliver lines correctly and with the same intonation on their voice and get it right.
I know, it's Bangkok. Hang out that dumb car. No one will in there. You are so safe, Kerry. We've been asked to seek his TA, sir. No one will check the bloody head. Bit too close. I thought it was done for. Well done, Kerry. I thought our day had been blown and that scabby Mrs. Reynolds came around the corner. Tom, this was the first thing that came into my head. Bloody worked as well.
On the day, the directors do help, although sometimes you've rehearsed it in such a way, and when they tell you to say it differently, it's very difficult not to do it how you've always done it. I can't believe you're making me do this. What's wrong with me staying at Rachel's?
Kerry, we've talked about this. Rachel's parents aren't in a position to look after you anymore. It was very kind of them to have you for as long as they have. I know you don't want to go, but there really is no other option until we find your parents. David and Sue are really lovely people. I'm sure you'll get along fine. That's just for me.
I like it. And what's that?
Ad-libbing.
Have you been to see a psychologist before? I thought not. It's not as bad as you think.
Acting in front of a group of friends is difficult because you become more aware of sort of what they think of your acting. I mean, if you know somebody is acting and you watch them, it doesn't look as good. You can't believe what they're doing because you know it's not true.
What about me? Do you fancy me, Keza?
My name isn't Kez or Keza, it's Kerry. My mum calls me Kez. No one else is allowed to call me that, okay?
Get her attitude or what? I reckon she's a Leslie. Casey the Leslie. Got a nice ring to her, ain't it?
With all the aspects of the film, we actually spent quite a lot of time doing research. We spoke to some people from social services to try and get the concept about how a child we basically wanted the child to have been abandoned by her parents. So we spoke to a number of people from social services, from the school where I work, to try and find when would a child be put into foster care, where would the child be taken to, and how that would all come about. I think the biggest challenge I had as a director was trying to mould the actors to fit the script, because they all came along, I think, with their own agendas, if you like. I think I want to be like this. At the end of the day, Ellen worked brilliantly. She did exactly as she was asked and played the part. She came up with ideas. She modified my way of thinking at times.
Having to act things which you've never done before, I thought was going to be a lot harder than it was, but all you could do was sort of do it how you thought they would do it. I mean, in the film, I play a person who hasn't shoplifted before, and it's sort of like their first time doing it. So that wasn't so bad, because I could sort of just play as I would do it, which was easier than you would think.
Still looks lit. That looks lit, the other didn't. No, seriously, it's the shadow.
You've got peach pasta.
Smells good. I just love doing it, so the whole thing was a good bit. Doing the car scene was really good, as we got to trash the car before we actually filmed in it. That was good. The film I did before was a lot different. Probably because I didn't have sort of the main lead role before, so although I was in quite a lot of the scenes, it didn't relate to me so much. You know, I wasn't like sort of the centre, so you didn't get the feeling of everything as much. In my own mind, I'd sort of seen it as a sort of small explosion, sort of coming from a fire, which I think is sort of how it looks.
When we set out to write Lost, we wanted a big challenge for us, and one of those was to actually blow up a car. Now, we managed to get a car, we managed to get the fire brigade involved, ready to blow the car up. We had lots of petrol and various bits and pieces, and the idea was to have a really big explosion, and then using a green screen technique to superimpose Faye coming away from the car with the explosion. Now, on the day, the explosion didn't really happen. The car caught fire very, very quickly, but it didn't fit with the script because we needed the big sort of explosion and the blast to blow away from the car, and that's what the script basically revolved around. The next stage of the filming process is the premiere, and I guess that's something I really enjoy. I like to sit at the back of the auditorium and watch people watching the film, and then you sort of gauge the reaction to certain bits where you're hoping that people are going to feel sorry for the characters, or they're going to laugh, or they're going to cry, and you know, those kind of things. And it's good to see, as you're sitting watching the audience, people reacting to it. When you're following the filming process, there is no kind of reaction at all, and it's one of the differences between the stage and film. If you're on stage, you get the audience reaction instantaneously, whereas with film you don't, and it's at the premiere stage where you get that reaction. And I shall be as nervous as the cast, because it's essentially Lindsay and myself's idea, and you're putting that on screen for somebody to watch, and I tend to be very critical, so I'll be very, very nervous at the event, but also looking forward to it at the same time.
Probably not what you're used to, but I'm sure you'll fit in. Just got to give it a bit of time.
So it's very diffused. That makes sense.
I used to go there when I was a girl.
Working with Darren has always been a privilege, and I know he's going to hear this and he's going to feel, oh yeah, you creep and all that sort of stuff, but Darren is an exceedingly talented cameraman, and to me that's where his strengths lies. You look at all his work, and having watched all his stuff from sort of 15 years ago, you can see the progress it's gone on.
Because of the amount of editing and everything you have to do, waiting for the actual film to come out after you've finished sort of acting the bit once your part is done is very difficult. You've spent so long filming it, you've put so much effort in, you know, so much of your time has been taken up doing it, that you really just can't wait, you just want to see it. I mean, you see little bits sort of played back as you're checking it once you've filmed it and things, but it's not the same as having it all put together.
I'm really looking forward to the film premiere, basically because for this film to have an audience watching the film and to feel that reaction from an audience gives a real buzz. That's what it's all about. In a way, for actors who act on stage, they get that instant feedback from an audience. For us as filmmakers, we get the film feedback at a premiere when people go and watch it. I don't think there's going to be a sequel to this film. I think there are a lot of questions that are left open. You know, what happens to Kerry? There's the very big question that everybody will walk out of the cinema saying, well, what did happen to her parents?
I have absolutely no idea where my parents have gone, and I'm really annoyed that nobody else knows either.
I think Kerry's parents went to Bogota. Her father was a particularly strange chap, and that comes over, I think, very clearly on the film. And I think it wasn't long after she'd walked down the road that a limousine pulled up outside the house, where her parents were bundled into the limousine, flown to Stansted Airport, and flown out of the country. And he's actually now residing as a big mob mafia boss in Bogota.
I think the film's going to turn out really good, because everybody's tried really hard, and it all went pretty well. Yesterday's gone.